In today's episode, the Ford range for 1998. This is the full range brochure. Today we'll be starting with the Ford KA. Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel. For those who don't know, we look at car brochures here on YouTube. Today, of course, is no exception. The only difference is this was first aired on a Friday. A Friday, we always look at Ford cars. And certainly, we are again with this more modern brochure actually for the Ford range for 1998. We look at 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s brochures on the whole, but I'm trying not to waffle. Let's throw it on the board and have a look at this brochure. And of course, today's episode, the Ford KA. So yes, today we're looking at the Ford range. In fact, I've still got the last brochure I've just filmed actually. You would have already seen this, regulars at least. We started looking at the 1985 Vauxhall Opel range and the Vauxhall Nova. So, in all fairness, I thought we'd start a new series here on Friday as well, looking at the Ford range for 1998. For some reason, I'm often called either biased towards Fords, and in the equal number of comments, biased towards Vauxhall Opel. I'm neither. This is a completely unbiased opinion. I'm not sure why that's out there. Yes, we do a Ford Friday, because it sounds good, Ford Friday. And also, I think most of my brochures actually are Ford, so I've got a lot of content for Ford. That doesn't mean I like Vauxhall any less, and you will certainly see a few Vauxhall episodes coming up for sure for you Vauxhall Opel lovers out there. I'm trying to cater for most people, to be honest with you. Anyway, today's brochure, the Ford range. Let's zoom in a bit further. It's quite the cover, isn't it? So this is 1998, and it's calling this one Edition 1, which would mean it's the start of the year, January to whenever. But yeah, it shows the full Ford range at the time. It looks vast, doesn't it, in 1998? I was surprised looking at this front cover actually, how many cars are actually there. And the brochure is actually a big one. It seems really thick and you think, oh, I'm going to get loads of detail in this. But the truth of the matter, there isn't much content on each model. One of the reasons I kind of like prefer older brochures is because of the more in-depth material, and Ford brochures of old, they had a big page for each spec going up or down the range, which I always loved that. I mean, it was nice to compare. You didn't get that in 1998, and you didn't get that in the 90s and 2000s. There was the start of, I'm not saying lazy brochures, but certainly the start of brochures almost coming less interesting. But the cars themselves are still interesting, so I certainly wanted to show the cars on there. Like I said, today, as it's the smallest and the first one in the brochure, the Ford KA will be the first car up. There's not massive information, so there isn't going to be a massive episode, unfortunately. But look at the variety. We even got the Ford Explorer from the US there in the range, which was a bizarre one I always thought to throw in there. We've even got commercial vehicles in this brochure as well, so it's really showing it all, but in a more condensed form. It's a bit unusual. The actual brochure itself is dated March 1998, which is surprising. You'd think that would say January 1998, considering this is edition 1. The code for the brochure is FA 1259-6 for those who are interested in that sort of brochure geekery. Anyway, let's move to opening the brochure up. So when we turn the first page, we're not straight into the Ford KA. We've got a bit of a contents page, which is quite nice to introduce both the brochure and of course this series, which will introduce one model each Friday for however long that takes. So like I say, today Ford KA, or they always kept changing how you said this. They kept saying, oh, it's a Ford car, then they went, it's a Ford Ka. So I'm not sure, I just call it the Ford KA for simplicity. I don't know if there was ever sorted out what we should actually call that car. Then there was the Fiesta, which will be next week's episode, and of course the Escort. We then get the Mondeo and then the Scorpio. Yes, that much maligned for its looks, or actually was quite a nice car on the inside. The much maligned, ugly Scorpio. That sort of like, I don't know, strange looking front end with them sort of bubble eyes. I don't know what they were thinking, but actually if you look at the world as a whole for Ford cars, they were always coming out with these curvy cars around that time, which some worked better than others, but certainly the Scorpio in the UK was a disaster because of its looks. And then we got a page called Estates. Nice, we're still offering Estates. Estates seem to be disappearing, sadly, even though I think they are the best form of car. We get the Galaxy, the people carrier, or MPV, or van, whatever you want to call it. We then get with the sporty little Puma. We get the Explorer, which, like I say, always seemed a weird one for British roads. The Maverick, the sort of badged engineered Nissan, and then we get light vans, and of course the ever popular Transit. And then the other two little categories, I don't know if we'll look at these or not, but motorsport we'll probably look at. There's a page for audio equipment and dealer service. The opposite page is a lot of waffle, and can we guess what car this is from the contents page? Well, weirdly it's not in the brochure. It's the new, probably too new for this brochure, the new Ford Kuga, fitting that sort of Ford Capri, Ford Probe end of the market, which wasn't hugely successful. I don't think they ever really caught the market back again for the Capri. But yes, that's what that's trying to show you. I guess maybe saying a little bit of a glimpse without showing you too much of the design. Talking about the new age. Is it new age? New edge? New edge, I should say. The new edge design, of course, was Ford. But yeah, let's move on. And then moving on means we get straight in today's episode, the Ford KA. And this is the weird thing about the brochure. It's a huge brochure, but this is all that we actually get for the full Ford KA and the full range of cars. Now obviously there was actually a separate brochure for each of these, but like I say, in the 80s, even on these full range brochures, you got loads of information, not only on each model but on each spec of each vehicle. And I think that's why the 70s and 80s brochures are my personal favourites, certainly my personal favourites when we're talking about Fords. So we'll start with the text, what little there is, really kind of introduces some of the spec levels, the interior, and then the exterior, and then we'll wrap it up. Like I say, it's just going to be a short episode. So it describes this as individual, simple, elegant, nothing for mere effect, small, agile, easy, precise steering, crisp acceleration, the unique KA driving experience, design that delivers. Standard features include a driver's airbag, safeguard engine immobiliser, power assisted steering. You kind of like forget we're in the 90s brochures now. What's a power assisted steering doing on this tiny car? But like I say, time moves on. Tinted glass, tailgate wiper with electric wash, an analog clock still gets a mention, folding rear seat back with 50-50 split, large bezel audio system with removable control panel, and then the options of a front passenger airbag, ABS, CFC-free air conditioning, which is standard on the KA3. We'll come to those little designations in a little bit. We can have optional alloy wheels, again standard on the KA3, a roof spoiler, leather trimmed steering wheel and gear knob, again standard on the KA3. So the levels were three-door KAs basically. You get the standard KA, you get the KA2, and then you get the KA3 with all those bits on there, including alloy wheels. So strange that they set them out like that. Gone are the days of your popular plus LGL or whatever. Maybe the KA3 would have been your KA gear, which may have looked quite nice, but no, This is the modern times. We have to change how we designate these little cars. Looking above is looking down on that little interior. Yes, there wasn't a mass of room in there. Yes, it was quite plasticky, but actually I kind of quite appreciate that dashboard for trying to be a little bit different with all those curves at a very curvy Ford time. Overall, you know what? I'm going to say it. I quite like the look of these little cars. We also get treated to these fun little black and white shots of a Ford Ka splashing through puddles. Very tiny pictures. Doesn't really add too much to it really. And we're told the exterior picture and the picture that we're the exterior picture which we're going to look at in a minute, and the interior picture is what I'm trying to say, or for the Ka2, so like the middle model. I'm not sure why they picked the middle model. Brochures of old always used to pick the top model. And it says with optional features at extra cost, but doesn't tell you what those optional features are, weirdly. So yeah, it's a funny brochure. It's not one of my favourites, but it's nice to go through it. The main image is, like I say, the Ka2, and we can see it showing that on the number plate as well, in this quite attractive shade of green actually. So what did you think about the Ka? It was a funny little car really. The Fiesta wasn't small enough apparently, so we had to have the Ford Ka. I quite like the overall design. Never drove one. I've heard quite a few people drove these, and actually they were more fun than you would imagine. Quite a dull engine under the bonnet, but obviously it's a small little car, so it didn't need too much under the bonnet. I quite like them. I think the problem was, and something that should have been better by 1998, come on Ford, this is 1998, so you struggled in the 70s, you got slightly better in the 80s, and then the late 90s here, and you're still failing on. Rust was a big issue, wasn't it? I don't know why it was such a big issue on these cars, whether there weren't enough under seal on them, I don't know, but they kind of like soon fell apart from rust, surprisingly for this time period actually, when most manufacturers were kind of getting around a lot of rust issues. But certainly a very cute looking car, and certainly in the showroom they looked something different, and I always appreciate that. Oh, and incidentally, it was mentioned, but this little fold-out card you would tear off the brochure if you wanted to know more information about any model, and then you get the proper larger brochure. So you can see there, you look down the list, tick the model that you wanted. Interestingly, the probe is still listed on there as well. So you tick which model you actually want, and then they'd send you back the proper brochure. Free post as well, which was quite nice of them, wasn't it? I always used to play see how many I could get away with requested. I think 3 was on average the maximum you could ask for at one time. But brochure collectors do what we can do. But yeah, this obviously hasn't ever been sent off, which is nice to see, but that's where you would learn more about each individual model. But that really concludes today's episode, so let's turn the camera around. So there you go, funny little brochure really, isn't it, for the full range. Shows how brochures have changed, and certainly as we're running another series on Wednesdays for the Vauxhall range in the mid 80s, it's nice to see that contrast of brochures becoming less and less of a thing. Much nicer brochures in the 80s in my opinion, but certainly still nice to have a quick look at these models. We'll go through all them models, only that double page on each model, kind of weirdly, but tick the box if you want more information, and then we'll go through there and see which is your favourite. So next week certainly will be Fiesta. But thank you so much for watching today. We'll end as we always do by saying, please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. You'll never be charged for being a subscriber, so make sure you do that if you're not already, because it really keeps you in touch with the channels and new episodes coming out. You can also become a member as well for a small fee. check out the homepage for that. But thank you so much for watching today. I'm going to add a couple of boxes here. The lower box I think will be the box that's going to show this series. So if you're watching it straight after I've made the first KA video, there'll only be the Ford KA in there, but eventually the full series will appear in this box, and then I'll do some other. Well, usually YouTube picks some other random picture. Over 600 episodes now, so lots of viewing time if you've got some moments to spare. But thank you so much for watching. Please do take care. We'll see you again very soon. All the best and goodbye.